let me know when you're good to go. Good afternoon, everybody. This is a truly alarming report, and it looks at the structures the government has in place to protect people in domestic and family violence situations, and it shows the state is failing its citizens. It lays bare the dismal failure to plan, implement and evaluate the programs that Queenslanders need to be kept safe. There are many alarming reports in this, but I want to raise three that show the area that, in my mind, proves that what we're doing isn't working and the need for the entire state to acknowledge how big a deal this is and find better solutions. The first, in relation to effective approaches to domestic and family violence, and I quote, "Queensland approach does not have the coordination, structure and systems necessary to support family and relationships." 2. In 2018, only 4% of domestic and family violence funding was funneled to prevention programs. In 2019, the government stopped reporting how much money it was spending on all domestic and family violence programs. It means the government and department do not know how much money they are spending on domestic and family violence. And 3, in relation to rehab, the Queensland Government does not collect data on attendance rate, completion rates and waiting lists for perpetrator rehabilitation programs. It also does not know how many perpetrators reoffend following rehabilitation. Without this, it cannot have confidence that rehabilitation programs are reducing the risk of DV. Queensland Corrective Service cannot confirm how many domestic and family violence perpetrators have been in Queensland prisons or under supervision in the community since 2015. Queensland Corrective Services has no permanent program for rehabilitating DFE perpetrators in Queensland prisons. The role of a government isn't to make an announcement and throw money at it. It's to plan, deliver and evaluate to keep people safe. That's what's needed. It needs an attention to detail. It needs more than an announcement and walk away and put on another report. It takes a coordinated effort. It needs the state to understand how important this is. The government does not know which programs are and aren't working. They aren't measuring, they aren't evaluating, they aren't keeping people safe. The horrifying ramifications of this report show that there is so much more that can be done with better planning, delivery and evaluation, and it has to start today. I'll ask our Shadow Minister for Women, Ros Bates, to say some words.
Thank you, David. Ros Bates, Shadow Minister for Women and Domestic Violence Survivor. I don't know how Shannon Fentiman can actually welcome a damning report into women and kids dying here in Queensland. This is the same Minister for Child Safety who oversaw at least the death of 12 children under suspicious circumstances when she was the Minister. Remember Mason Jet Lee? Remember Tiali Palmer? This is the same Minister whose job it was to implement the Not Now, Not Ever report, and women keep dying. As a survivor of domestic violence, I am appalled. The mothers and fathers of murdered women are appalled. Some of these tragic outcomes, let me remind you, this was under the watch of Shannon Fentiman, who has either been the Minister for Women or the Minister for the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence. Chelsea Schilling, Tara Brown, Teresa Bradford, Larissa Bealby, Melinda Horner, Karina Locke, Fabiana Palaharis, Kim Cobby, Mary Benedetto, Kelly Wilkinson, Hannah Clark and Doreen Langham. While the Palaszczuk Government has been focusing on window dressing behind closed doors, women and kids keep dying here in Queensland. It is appalling. David?
Thanks, Ross. Over to you.
The Attorney General is saying that some of the things that are mentioned in this report, the government's already been working on, and it sort of overlaps what mechanisms they've already sort of put in place. What do you say to that?
Well, I'll make a couple of points. One is we would really love the Minister to stand up and answer some questions. That'd be a good start. there was a statement ready to go, but there wasn't any opportunity for us to quiz the Minister in question time, and there wasn't any statement made in the place, so we would welcome that opportunity. I'll make one point though. This details generational failure. It details a culture in the government where they're happy to make announcements and walk away from it. And I'm interested to know just how many reports, just how many pages, just how many times do we have to keep going through this before we acknowledge what we're doing isn't working. And we don't know what is and isn't working. And I would have thought the best thing that could happen out of this is for the Minister to acknowledge just how bad things are. And there are many recommendations that haven't been fulfilled, and quite frankly, the report just shows how bad things really are. And it's going to take more than a ministerial release saying that they welcome a report. This report is alarming, and it deserves action and implementation today.
And what do you make of the recommendations? Do you support them?
Yeah, of course. But it needs more than just a welcome. It needs complete and utter attention to detail and change driven from the top. You know, when I look at a stat that shows that only 4% of money goes to prevention programs, and the government's way of fixing that was to stop measuring it, that tells you everything you need to know. I can tell you what I'd expect from my minister. I'd want to see how can we increase that figure, how can we evaluate what is and isn't working, and how can we come back to the public and say, well, here it is. And in an area like this, it'll never be perfect. And there will be things that you do that work and things that don't. But if you're honest and open and you're willing to evaluate that, you can do more of the things that are great and transition and look for other opportunities in what doesn't work. But what this report shows is a culture that the government would prefer not to evaluate, not to measure, and therefore not to be held to scrutiny. And I think that shows everything that is wrong with a third-term government.
Does it make you angry, this report, or how do you feel about it once you read it?
It's alarming. And I think most fair-minded Queenslanders would look at it and say, if a government's not willing to measure and improve, a government's not truly serious about a problem. Thanks, Ross. Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.